Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Mac 6 Conscious Workspace in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. I'm Karen Nowicki, and I'm very excited to meet today with a good portion of the team Oppty. We have with us Steve Miksta, who's the founder and CEO, and Matt Ford, the Chief Growth Officer. Welcome to the studio, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
So excited to have you both here. So let's just get started right away with explaining what and who is Oppty, and then we'll do a little bit of background work and learn more. Who would like to start for us?
Right.
They're doing rock, paper, scissors.
We know that I'll get into way too big of a conversation. We call Matt the simple guy, so he always takes...
Let's do a bigger version, then we'll do simple guy.
Yeah. In essence, we help companies, I'm starting kind of simple here, but we help companies leverage technology to scale their business. What exactly that means is we're going through a huge change right now, and technology continues to evolve, and automation and just customer expectations are shifting. And you've got the Amazons of the world that are automating everything, and the small to mid-sized business is in a spot where they need to figure out what their technology plan is and what their strategy is going to be. And margins are compressing. And so these businesses are in a spot where, and COVID highlighted this, where, even they're people heavy. Like they when business slows down, they can't staff. Like they're overstaffed for the amount of volume that they're bringing in. And part of that is because a lot of these companies have people doing jobs that technology should be doing. It's not about replacing jobs. It's not about eliminating jobs. It's about creating new jobs and saying, okay, the future is going to be, how do businesses work alongside technology and leverage technology to do the things that we don't want to do, and work alongside of it and optimize it and make it better, to make a better customer experience, to provide more value to your customers, and to assist in growing that business exponentially by leveraging that technology. But if you don't get on board and you're continuing to, then they're in a tough spot. And it's really kind of fearful to me where ultimately Amazon can automate to a point where it takes over that business in that space. And the one thing these small to mid-sized businesses do have is the relationship. They have the customer, they have the relationship. So how do you maximize that and leverage that in a way where pricing wise you can still be competitive with Amazon, but you're taking that personal, the personal relationship that you have and expanding on that in those local markets. And so that's really what we do is help companies understand how to do that, to look at their current business. That's probably a great business. It's running well. They have good people. Their clients love them. They're just not in a point where they can scale it and grow it. Like most of these companies are hitting their head on production levels, or they know they're inefficient with their technology, or they have people that they're hiring just to do data entry and things like that. And we help kind of build that plan and that strategy to say, look, here's where you're at today, but there's a future, and this is what it could look like, and how do we get there? And that's where we start our engagement of leveraging technology and identifying those gaps to get them on that plan to innovate and grow.
Perfect. Thank you. Steve, how would you respond, or what would you like to add to that? I'm sorry, Steve, Matt. Sorry. Wow, that was funny. Okay. I was so confident.
Yeah. Well, Steve gave a great response to that question, and I think for me, it's simplified a little bit more because I've been on the receiving end of poor implementation so many times in multiple different businesses, in terms of like ERP systems or major platform deployments or even simple CRMs. And really, the gap I believe that we fill is that client for life mentality, so that not only are we going to educate them on how the technology can align with their vision and improve their processes and give them a tool to manage their business differently so that they're seeing the things that are important to them and not a lot of things that aren't important to running the business. But then we implement and we train in a way so that they fully understand the power of the tool that we're deploying to them. And I think that's really a much needed gap in the industry because, like I said, I've been on the receiving end of that poor implementation where a technology partner comes in and they're mostly interested in just selling you the product or the licenses to the product, and then they're off to the next client. And then that leaves you in a position where you're maybe only using 5% of the power of this tool because you weren't properly enabled on the platform itself. And so really we put a high level of focus on that user experience and that implementation phase so that they truly understand what they are using. And then through doing that, then we create like internal product champions where they start to ask questions about, I wonder if it can do this, or how about if it can do that? And typically the answer is yes on our end, right?
Always, yes.
Always yes, right?
Oh, even if we don't know yet.
Right. So, that's really the beauty, I think, of what we do. And we come in leading kind of with technology, right? But as we get into the client's business and we understand it more, we almost shift into more of a consultative role where we bring like executive level experience and we talk about strategy, planning, setting objectives and cascading those throughout the organization and how we measure, what we do against certain KPIs. And we then kind of jointly own those KPIs so that we're in this together with the client, right? And they understand and they can hold us accountable for the work that we're doing. And so it all kind of ties into that client for life mentality where we want to be their technology partner, not just an immediate solution, not just, we're here to sell licenses. We want to truly invest in them and us as we move forward.
I love hearing that. Tell me about the kinds of businesses that you served. Who is it that you're working with?
I'd say we're pretty open from a business side of things. My background's in mortgage, so mortgage, financial services, that's where my background is. But we've had a variety of companies, and I think that's one of the things that we haven't mentioned. But Salesforce is typically what we leverage from a technology side, and the beauty of Salesforce is it's not tied to a particular industry, and the genius behind it is when you look at business, no matter what the industry, in essence, I mean, everything's the same. There's leads, there's customers, there's orders, there's fulfillment of those orders, and when you look across whatever industry, obviously some industries don't have segments of that, but as a whole, they've built a platform where it's going to touch every part of the business. Really, it's been eye-opening to, as we've worked with these customers, I truly believe there's some value in working across different verticals because you actually get insights and just learn things from a different perspective that if I was only in this particular vertical, I never would have even thought of that. So we've had some really eye-opening things where, because we're working across these different verticals, we come up with new ideas. And I'd say where we focus, because obviously there's, as you say, well, we work in an industry, then it's, well, okay, so you're this huge target market, like that's not the best way to run a business. And so where our focus is on the business that wants to grow exponentially. And so as I was saying earlier, like our ideal client is that small to mid-sized business customer who doesn't have that technology strategy in place and needs a partner to work with them to get there. And I mean, technology's evolved in the last few years to where it's affordable for them. And it hasn't been in the past, right? You look 5-10 years ago, only the big companies could leverage technology in the way that you can today. Well, today, I argue that as a small business, you're in a better position than some of these larger organizations that have to unwind and get out of these old systems. You see some of these bigger organizations that actually do implementations with like a separate subset of their organization, just because it's so much easier to develop and get feedback and do that with a smaller group of people as opposed to trying to roll it out amongst thousands of employees. And so we really use that as take our approach to like target these smaller businesses that want to grow, and we're able to come in and scale what it is we do, because it's all the same type of customer, even if the business is different. Like the steps we go through to build a strategy and start to implement and build an initial platform for them, but then iterate and help their team innovate and kind of shift that culture to more of an innovative culture. That's the client we're looking for.
One of the things you mentioned, sorry, am I interrupting?
No, I was just going to add to that, if that's okay. So it's a great question, right? Because I think as your audience listens to this, that they're going to ask themselves, does my business, is this something I need, right? And I would answer that question with this analogy that probably 95% of your audience has a smartphone. And if everybody was to answer honestly, what did you do before the smartphone? They wouldn't know how to answer that, right? Like how did I get by without it, right? Like it's my maps, it's my calendar, it's my email, it's my entire supercomputer in my pocket. And so the beauty of both the iPhone or the Samsung, the Galaxy or the Android marketplaces, those are open platforms, meaning that if the solution doesn't exist today, somebody's probably going to write an app for it. And so when you think about the power of that product, it's really unlocked when you customize it to your specific needs. So when you pulled it out of the box, it was a very powerful supercomputer in the palm of your hand, but it was only preloaded with a certain number of applications, right? And as you think about how it can solve problems for you on a daily basis in your personal life or in your business world, then you go out and you grab those applications and pull them down to your phone. And next thing you know, you got 9 pages of apps on your phone. You got to start organizing them, right? So when somebody asks me that question, I think, think of Salesforce and Oppty as kind of the technology platform for your business, like your smartphone is for your personal life. And so it's very powerful out of the box. The Salesforce platform is, but what Oppty does is come in and customize it to your business needs. So we come in and we listen. And as Steve mentioned, the diversity of our client base actually makes us more of a resource to our clients because we've seen different scenarios. And so I mentioned the word consultant earlier. I really prefer to use the word problem solvers because we come in and we look at your business from a different perspective. And I'm sure you've heard this analogy, right? That some people get stuck working in their business too much. They can't work on their business. We can do that, right? So we can allow you to continue working in your business while we work on it from a different perspective and leveraging that technology piece. And then we customize your experience on the platform just like you customize your smartphone. And so really, to me, that Salesforce product is kind of the iPhone for businesses today. And so there was a huge shift, right? From a personal use standpoint, we all had, flip phones, and then, some of us had bag phones.
Some of us had the bricks.
Some of us had the bricks. Steve doesn't fit into that category.
Right.
And then we progressed, right, to a flip phone and something we wore on our belt. And now it's a supercomputer, right, in your pocket. And what did you do before that? We can't really answer that question very clearly. It's a much quieter time in our world. But to me, it's the evolution of business, right? And if you're doing things the way they've always been done, you're not progressing and you're at risk, right, from those that are evolving their business and leveraging technology. And so, as Steve mentioned, this is a shift, right, in the business world. And you have to be looking at technology and how it aligns with your corporate vision and getting the two married up to be successful in the future.
So many thoughts in everything that you've shared. The first one that comes to mind is Treasures for Teachers. I'm on the board. It's a nonprofit here locally. And you, I think pre going on air, you had mentioned that nonprofits is one of the areas that you hope to be more present in and continue to help folks in that area. I know that T4T uses Salesforce, and I know sitting in many board meetings, the executive director was just scratching her head saying, I know that it can do this much, but but we only know how to do this much. And we don't know how to bridge that gap between the robust capacity and ability to use it in so many different facets of their business. But they struggled a lot. And I don't know how it was resolved, to be honest with you. They may still be struggling, so I'll have to introduce them to Oppty.
Yeah.
But do you find that?
Yeah, that's not uncommon at all. And that's why we exist, right? But it's the thing that gets me most excited about that is the technology's there and you can learn it. And so you look at these companies that are on it, like they need a guide. They need a coach they know their business. They don't know enough about technology. And even if I went to that business owner, that company, and said, "Hey, what do you want it to do?" They don't know what to ask for. It's just way over their head, and that's okay because they know their business. And when you start communicating to them, and we take on that technology side, and we just say, "No, don't tell me what the tech needs to do. Like, what does this need to do for your business? Why do you need that button there? Why do you need this thing?" And you start asking these different questions. They say, "Well, I need it because I need to send an email when this happens." Okay, well, why do you need that? Well, because I want them to get an update. Well, why do you want that? Well, because I want to get more business from them in the future. Well, how do you plan on doing that? And now you're 6 layers deep, and we're now uncovering a problem that they didn't even think about. And all of a sudden, we're creating a whole new potential market for business that it's in there somewhere, but they never would have gotten to that. And what we love is when we come into these organizations and we start asking those questions, you always get a couple people within that organization. And part of as we start working with that company, we want the visionary, right, the business owner who sees the future and what knows the business, but probably isn't super tech savvy. And then actually I see like rocket fuel, right?
Yeah.
So and then your implementer, right? And so that person who knows the business, but and there's so many of these people out there where they do know the business. They tell themselves they don't know technology, but they know it enough. Like they're a process-minded person and they can learn the tech. And I think that's where like my story, like going back, I was a loan officer in 2004. I do have a tech background, but I started originating and then came across Salesforce, and I've just learned it. And over the years, I've figured it out and taken the trail. Like Salesforce has a huge Trailhead training academy program where you can learn everything about Salesforce and become. It's even part of the reason why Oppty has its name is like, to me, like people should have equal opportunity, right? And the ability to pursue and do what it is they want. And sometimes from an education side, I'm very passionate about education. So you mentioned that. My mom was a teacher. But that's not always guaranteed, right? In some of these different areas. And to me, the cool thing about Salesforce is you can get on and you can learn it, and you can write your own ticket, and that information is out there, and they can run with it. And so when we come into these organizations, it's fun to see who those people are that are going to step up within that company. And sometimes it's the implementer, but sometimes it's some of the key people within the organization might not be nervous about leveraging technology. And so, it sometimes can create visibility into like, okay, maybe there's a reason why we aren't growing in this department, because we're not innovating, and we have, people that are scared of moving that direction. So it just, over time, it just creates visibility into innovation. And can we do it better? Can we do it faster? Can we do it where there's more value to the customer? The people that latch onto that, like those are the people that you want running the future of your business, because they're adding value to your business.
I got another simple guy analogy.
Yeah.
So I've been spending considerable amount of time with my folks during the pandemic here, and making sure that they're safe, first of all. And we're also tackling some other health challenges that they're dealing with. But I looked at my dad's iPhone, and I've sent him, I don't know how many text messages over the last couple of years and never got a response, right? But Mom says, just keep sending them. He gets them. He just doesn't know how to reply. And so he's got the tool, back to your point about, they have the tool, but what they lack is, the education and the enablement on the platform. And my dad's no different. Like, he has the tool. Nobody's taken the time to really understand how he needs to use it and what's important to him, and then train him up on that, right? And so we're kind of going through that process, and he's starting to realize how powerful that tool is. And like, now he can, get his weather and get his, stock report and get his racing updates or whatever's important to him in his retirement years, right? It's right there at his fingertips, and nobody's really taken the time to really enable him on that phone. And so it's the same thing with this platform, right? A lot of users have invested in the platform, but there's that gap, right? And that gap is what we're trying to fill. And so we're not always looking at clients that already have the platform or that don't have the platform. If they have the need for an implementation partner and are looking for somebody to help them grow their business through the use of that technology, then we're a great fit.
How does Salesforce fit in that they know that Oppty's around? And I mean, it's a nice, they know you're an implementer, right? Mm-hmm. And I bet you that's a nice relationship as well.
Absolutely.
And continuing to grow that. What I'm hearing when you briefly gave the example of way back when you learned Salesforce for your previous business, can you speak to how that felt? I mean, you said you had a tech background anyway, but when you discovered a new piece or a new nuance, some new way of solving a problem in your business, how did that feel for you?
It's great. It's fun. You own it, right? You take ownership in it. There's a book I reference quite a bit, Drive, where it talks about the mastery, autonomy, and purpose, right? And when you get a tool like this, you could do anything you want. Like, you can do whatever it is you want. And that there's something about that where it's like, okay, well, I want to put a ton of time into this. I want to do cool things, right? I want to continue to become a master at this. And that's what's driven me, and seeing the opportunity today where you've got so many of these business owners that gap is just huge, and they don't know how to fill it. And so we're coming in, and our mindset is about not just, like, we don't want them to always necessarily rely on us. We want to enable their people. And so it's helping. It's what, like, you can teach a man to fish, right?
Yeah, you can fish for him, or you can teach him to fish. Yeah.
Fish, right. So it's like they can either come, and that was kind of my experience, I think, with when I was going through the process of trying to learn Salesforce. We hired a few different partners along the way because we ended up building out an end-to-end mortgage platform. The partners it was super frustrating because I knew the business, they knew the tech, and there was still this gap, and I couldn't fill that gap. So we finally hired a consultancy that we said, look, you come in, but you're not building anything. You're going to teach us how to develop. And so we learned this whole software development process, agile methodology, Scrum, like this whole new world, really. When you look at these software companies and how they're doing the things that they're doing, it's because compared to the normal business, they're operating in a totally separate world. And they get so much done because of the processes they've put in place. And so, even as we work with these companies, in the future, like, we're obviously using agile, and we're building out this roadmap and setting priorities, and we're starting to, like, as we start building it, we're also implementing that process within these organizations. So it becomes even more than technology and consulting. Is like, we're setting up a process in their organization to prioritize and calculate ROI, and what are we going to invest this money in? Why are we building this tech? Like, we don't want to just throw money at a problem, but, like, what are the metrics, right? How do we know we've won and we've solved for this? Are we creating more revenue? Are we cutting costs? Are we eliminating a software? We have those discussions up front, and I think that's where I know that's where, even with Matt's experience, like, we get business, and that's the gap with a lot of these companies is there's technology. They know the tech, but they don't know the business, and then even more so, they don't know the small business.
Yeah, they know their thing. They know whatever it is, the service or the products that they're putting out in the world. That's what they know, and they may know some tech, but maybe lacking the business. And I'm hearing you say that you're bringing that all together for them, and not only teaching them, but a partner with them long term.
Yeah. So if you divide it out, kind of in our approach, like first of all, in our mission is helping companies, right? And that's our approach is how can we help you? And we have to ask a lot of questions, right? To fully understand how we can help them and then present that in a way where they see the value in what we do. And so we get asked the question, a lot like how much does this cost or what's your price? Well, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered before we can answer that question, right? So we start to dive in, to our process with the intent of helping, right? But as you look at how we help, it can really be broken down into 3 different buckets. From an operational efficiency side, we can drive a lot of costs out of their operation, right, through the automation. And then the people that are doing those jobs are now freed up to do things that computers can't do, right? And they bring more value to their employer at that point. And so that's one kind of bucket, right? The operational efficiencies and driving costs out of the business. And then the second component would be revenue growth. Like how can we review with them their growth strategy, their sales strategy, their marketing strategy, and hopefully find some opportunities to increase that. And we can do that through a lot of different ways. We may see things in our organization that they haven't seen, like we see different market opportunities. We start connecting them with other vendors or suppliers that might be able to help grow their revenue that they haven't thought about. And then like the automation piece that the technology can do through marketing, right? And putting a lot of emphasis on that digital automation to help grow their revenue, and then just tracking it and giving visibility to that entire process and setting up the metrics so that a sales manager or director of VP of sales, whatever the title, whoever's responsible for that revenue channel can just see a dashboard full of metrics that are important to them.
And easy to consume.
Easy to consume. And then by looking at those metrics, they can easily identify when something's missing or there's a gap there, and they can address that gap versus just trying to manage a multitude of different areas that might not be all relevant to what the problem may be, right? So we give them visibility to all that. But then the third piece is what really gets me excited, and that's what Steve was referencing. Like, as we implement a lot of new, not just technology, but methodology behind how we operate, we can bring that to our clients. And so it's kind of like the executive level piece, right? And so we have we have diverse backgrounds on our team, which gives us a lot of different perspective at times. And we have a culture of self-development where everybody's continually learning and innovating themselves. And so we bring that to our clients as well. So maybe as simple as like goal setting, right? Some of our companies just really don't have that, or maybe they had it, but they don't walk it out every year, and it doesn't cascade through the organization like it should. We can come in and work with them to establish those corporate goals, and then cascade them into quarterly objectives and align them to their team, and then get into really like some bigger picture stuff like the agile methodology, the scrums, and see how that sits, right, and how that fits within their organization, but at least bring that executive level piece outside of all the other tech that we're doing and all the other problem solving that we're doing. And we're actually excited. I don't know if this is a good time to mention this, but we're really excited to launch our Oppty Ambassador program this month. The Ambassador program is really an overarching program that really, it includes our clients, it includes some consultants that we're going to work with, but it really helps expand Oppty's vision through this ambassador channel. And so we have just announced our initial charter ambassador is Jackie Lord, and she has a company called Elevate Consulting, LLC, based here in Scottsdale. Jackie brings a tremendous wealth of knowledge through her corporate experiences. And now she has gone out, on her own to bring those experiences to help the same type of clients, the small to medium-sized business clients that we're offering. And so in all of her tools in her toolbox, the one element that was missing was really the technology piece, right? From a process and financial aspect, she has all those tools and all that knowledge to bring. And so aligning with her to fill that last piece and bringing the technology piece in is really awesome. We're really excited to have Jackie join us as the charter ambassador. And we will continue to, provide that service to other consultants as we grow. And hopefully maybe some in your listening audience would like to learn more about that program and become part of the Oppty ecosystem. So super exciting.
Yeah, that is a very exciting piece. But you think about, it's mind-boggling the number of consultants that are out there. One of the challenges as we scale is we need, number one, it's relationship, right? Like we aren't trying to automate technology to replace the relationship. We're trying to leverage technology to support the relationship. And with that, as we scale and get more customers, we need that relationship piece in place. And what we've realized is there's these consultants out there that are already in the business, already have the relationship, are already doing process engagement, executive coaching, right? All of these different things. And they're not recommending any sort of technology solution, or they don't have a plan. And that to me is where just there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, because in today's world, technology solves all of those problems. If you have that stuff identified, the ability to build that out and make that investment and automate all of those things that then allow you to grow, it's how you scale a business. And there's countless of them out there that they don't have a recommendation. They don't do any of the execution. They'll build them a plan. Well, how many people have a plan, right? I'm going to work out 5 times a week, right? That's my plan. But does it happen, right? You need that coach and that process and that accountability. And we kind of implement that along with a tool that automates all the things that you don't want to do, or that, that you have people on your team that are doing that they don't want to do.
I love, Matt, that you called it an ecosystem, the Oppty ecosystem. For some reason, I got this vision of this, big pot sitting on the stove, and you've got all these different ingredients, right? And you guys are the ones that says, hey, here's the pot, and let's pull in relationships, long-term relationships. Let's pull in the tech. Let's pull in the project management piece, all that, and let's just make sure that it's all stirring and ruminating and spending some time there, so that when it's never finished, but when we can take a ladle and pour some out, it's going to start to taste and it'll have the experience that you want as you're moving down the road towards your business goals. So often, small business and medium-sized business owners, they know who they are. They have a hard time articulating it, but they also stay in, as you said earlier, they stay in the weeds of the business for so long that they feel like they can't come out and take a look at strategically what they're doing, or they have their plan, but then it gets put on a shelf and it's never revisited until it's too late, right? So you're there to just, arm in arm, go with them and keep making sure the right ingredients land at the right time and the right amount.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, there's power in numbers. That's been proven out, right? And the small to medium-sized businesses need to, fight together, right, against the bigger machines. And to do that, it takes more than just networking groups. It takes more than, some of the, the Rotaries and some of the other older models of how those businesses collaborate. And I still think there's a tremendous value to do that, right? But then it's adding that connectivity, that technology piece to really leverage those businesses and what they do and how they can interact, and what the value proposition is to bring those businesses closer together so they collaborate and they use a singular platform to do e-commerce together. And so I don't want to get too far out there because Steve can probably explain it even further in a visionary way if we have time on where that is really going. And it's happening today with some of the blockchain technology and some of the things like that. And sometimes it's great for us to be leading that, but also we want to make sure that as we speak to the client, right, that we're staying in the here and now and focused on what their immediate needs and priorities are. And some of these other things will happen almost organically as our economy changes and shifts, and as technology plays a key role in all that. But again, I think my role as the simple guy, right, is to come in and make sure that we're speaking relevant to our client in a language that they understand, and that we're digging in to understand their business as much as we can, as quickly as possible, so that we can create, that product roadmap for them that is very custom and specific to them. But certainly there's something to be said for getting a singular platform for all these small to medium-sized businesses to work on and work amongst each other with. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Oppty ecosystem can really kind of play out over time. And we're really excited about what that looks like.
How did the two of you connect? There's got to be a story there.
Well, yeah, a little bit of one. I don't know if I could start. And I think it really will segue into something that I wanted to share that we touched on a couple of times, but it's purpose. So I met Steve probably about a year ago at a networking event that I was invited to go to, and I didn't really, have an opportunity to introduce myself to the group. I think somebody did an introduction for me, but Steve caught up with me after this breakfast and waited patiently for me to finish up another conversation, and then we introduced ourselves, and I asked Steve, what he did, and he said, "Well, I have a company called Oppty, and we implement Salesforce platform for small to medium sized businesses." And then he kind of went on and on about and on. I mean, looking back on it, it's funny to me. So I hope it is to him as well. But I walked away from that.
I didn't even realize that was going on.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. But I walked away from there, like, thinking a couple things. Like, first of all, I knew what Salesforce was. I'd used it before, so I knew what technology he was referring to. But, like, other than that, I really didn't understand what Oppty was and what Oppty was doing, right? And so, but I really enjoyed my conversation with Steve, and I just saw something in him that he really, throughout my years and my different experiences, I've met a lot of different people, and I feel like I have a pretty good judgment on people really in the first few minutes, but sometimes I'm way off, right? But my gut told me like there was something there that I needed to continue these conversations. And so we talked for months and months and months, sometimes once a week, sometimes a couple times a week. And I just kept asking more and more questions and getting more and more clarity around what Oppty did, but also getting more understanding of who Steve was as a person and what was important to him, what his core values were like. And that's where I really felt like the relationship began to flourish, because for me, I'm not the most tech savvy on the team, but what I was really looking for was, hey, you'll get your turn.
Are you seconding that?
You'll get your turn. You'll get your version in a minute. But I'm certainly not the most tech savvy. But what I was looking for was really to, find the next chapter in my career, but aligning it with purpose. I came from an industry where I was serving the disabled community for the last 17 years. And so I really felt like that would be a big gap for me to fill in terms of purpose. But as I continued to talk with Steve and we started talking about how we get the messaging down, because it needed to be refined from, that initial introduction that he and I had, it had to get refined from there. And we started talking about purpose and really helping companies and starting with that approach. And now, as you look at our newly designed website and our marketing materials, it really speaks to that purpose of helping, right? And that's really where we start we start the conversation there. And then again, over time, just working with Steve, I have just a tremendous level of respect for his vision, but more so for who he is as a human being, and his care and concern about others and doing things the right way. again, I've had a lot of experiences in my career, and not all of them have been positive as it relates to other human experiences. And so I just, I believe things happen for a reason. And I told him that, and he agreed that our paths crossed that day for a reason. And over time, the relationship has really developed into much more than a business relationship. It's been fantastic. And
the couple times we've hung out.
A couple times, yeah. Our Zoom calls are tremendous. No, this is fantastic to be in the same room with this
yeah, it's been a while. I think you said when you got here, given the quarantine and the fact that you've been helping out and doing work remotely. Yeah. What part of that story, Steve?
Is false?
Yeah. What part of the story is not true? No, from your perspective, what made this magic work from your perspective?
The simple guy part of it is critical. I mean, I can talk and I get excited about this stuff, and I see what it can do and the impact it can have, and the savings it can create, the growth that it can create, the lives it can change, and I just get passionate about that. And sometimes that makes it very hard to explain what we do to a business owner who's just kind of overwhelmed when they hear all of this, right? It's like, tech, anything's possible. Well, anything's possible. Wait, what do you mean? And so to have someone like Matt with his background and experience at an executive level to both validate what we do, but then also have those conversations in just a more business, not to say old guy, but
that's okay.
Seasoned.
I embrace
seasoned executive, just to be able to connect with that and say, look, like, I get it. Like he says, I've been through implementations. Like, I understand. I've been in your shoes, and he truly has. And the fact that he's coming, like, clearly he's seen something in us and how we deliver, and to give him the confidence level to meet with these business owners, to bring on these other partners, and to get them to feel comfortable with the idea that, yes, anything truly is possible. And the more that they can learn about the technology and input and engage with us, the faster they start being able to access this functionality. And we're pulling them forward and giving their business a chance to live on. I mean, in some of these cases, they're going to have a hard time being able to, that to me, from a purpose side, like, that's what gets me going, because there's business owners where if they don't engage and get on board with this,
they're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah, I want to add to that too, that I think we have a number of clients right now that we have helped, through this very, very difficult time, and we have not lost one through the pandemic. And I think it's a testament to our process and our people. The product stands on its own, but like, we've got an incredible team that's really dedicated and focused on client success. And, I don't want to go through and run out of time, without mentioning those team members. And Rob Kane is a tremendous asset to Oppty, and really on the front line with the clients on a day-to-day basis, problem solving and presenting additional solutions, and really just helping, the client through very difficult times, right? And then Emily Tyson, who is also very, very involved in the customers on a day-to-day basis. And then we've got Andy Felice, who also is part of our business development team and continually looking for opportunities that are a good fit for us. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't run out of time without mentioning some of our very, very key team members. But I think that...
And Troy Smith.
So
I don't want to leave Troy.
Yeah, I'm not. I knew I was going to leave one. You're supposed to write it down on that paper. But no, Troy is our newest team member. He came in just after I did. And so Troy heads up our marketing initiatives and is really building out some tremendous assets that we can bring to our clients. In fact, I'll be with Troy on site tomorrow with a client talking about what they're currently doing in marketing and how we can really drive some efficiencies there through our automated processes. So at any rate, yeah, we have a tremendous team. Steve and I are here today talking to you, but there's a lot of horsepower behind us as well, creating that tremendous experience for the client.
And just to talk on that, because you said Troy, and he does marketing, and we can't do everything, right? So that's one caveat I'd say, and where we're looking to build out this partner channel is the ability to find solutions for our customers, and so there's definitely been a few different consultants we've engaged with on a partner level, and continuing to look for ongoing relationships to where we're organizing that data and building out that end-to-end platform and visibility, so we know that customer and who it is, and we're continuing to get better data on defining who that customer is. If they have an existing marketing consultant or people like that, it's great. Like let's work with them to assist them in trying to do what it is that they're looking to do, because we know that if we can align with them, now we can help support them in their initiatives. And I think that's one of the struggles too that these small business owners have. They're working with 4 or 5 different consultants, and none of them talk with each other.
Right.
So they're spending all this time with all these different consultants, which is the idea is right, but you got each one of them driving their own initiative, and none of them are aligned. And so we love those opportunities to engage with those consultants, with that company, and like let's build out a plan. We don't have to do all of it. Like we'll do whatever part we need, but we're always looking to expand that and just help these companies with figuring out that strategy.
What's the greatest compliment a client would share with you? Either one that you hope to hear or one that you hear from them. Like you know that you're really helping them when what?
I think really it's like to me it's a long-term thing. Like Oppty it's that client for life mentality, and to me it's kind of my purpose and what it is I want to do. So like the way I look at that is just however many years from now we're sitting with that customer and they just say, "Hey, thank you."
And celebrating their successes.
Couldn't have done this without you, and we had a lot of fun while we did it, and I mean that's great, and we made money, yes, but it's about having fun and the experience, and how many jobs do we create, how many lives do we change, how many employees do we take out of the day-to-day grind and get into something where like they're owning their future. That's the stuff that excites me.
I think for me, if it's not about the cost savings or the revenue generation or some of the other things we talked about earlier, it would be a compliment about an individual on our team, specifically, that is the most rewarding to me, because ultimately, we're trying to help a lot of different types of businesses, but at the same time, we're building out our own organization and our own work culture, and it's that is very important to me. In fact, I want Oppty to be an employer of choice here in the Valley, and be featured on the Phoenix magazine and things like that in the coming years. To say that is one thing, but to really walk it out every day in terms of how we treat our people and how we collaborate as a team and how we bring value to the client outside of the technology piece, right? Because ultimately we're solving some complex problems, and technology can potentially solve the problem, but you have to identify the problem first, and that takes a lot of human interaction. And when I get that feedback from the clients about certain team members and how they ask the right questions, or how they help them see it differently than the way they were looking at it, like, to me, that's the ultimate compliment of what Steve has built here in Oppty.
When you were starting Oppty, what is it that you set out to do? You had been in, did you say lending previously? Right. And so you developed this and you realized, oh my gosh, the potential here, right? So why Oppty? Why would you not just keep this to yourself and stay in your, the lane that you were in to begin with?
That's just me. So I started using Salesforce in mortgage, and to me, the eye-opening piece was people view Salesforce as CRM, and they think marketing automation and how do we automate, and it wasn't about. It's not about. It's just it's so much more than that. Like it's leveraging the relationship. It's how do you provide more value, and how do you see your business end to end? And so we built it out to help us not on the marketing side of the mortgage business, but on the operational side. So this was 2009 is when I first got on Salesforce. So as we were going through this, all the regulations and changes that were happening, so you needed all this documentation and paperwork and things that you needed, and it became this huge long list of stuff that you needed. Well, how do you manage the status of that? And me as a loan officer, if I kept getting pulled back into the operational stuff, then I wasn't selling. And so it was, how do I automate that side of it, or at least create visibility to where my team's enabled? And even back then, we started building out that process to get better visibility. And as I knew that those loans were closing, now I can focus on sales. And so we ended up growing our business tremendously, and we're one of the top originators in the country in 2012, and then shifted over to VIP Mortgage here locally, and partnered up with them, and spent about 6 years building out that technology end to end within their company. And it was during that time when I started. We tried finding a consulting partner, and just didn't have great experience with it, and ended up hiring someone else who taught us this whole new world of agile and software development, and I learned it, and I soaked it up, and I think to me there's other people out there who also can learn it, right? Like, I'm not the only one that can learn it, so they just need a guide, and just as this all played out, like Oppty was it. It's like, okay, I got to do this, and since we've done it, like, I think it's getting clearer every day that there's a true need for this, and we're just identifying more and more customers and partners and people that align with us and what it is we want to do, and helping companies get through this and make the shift, but create jobs. Like, it's not about, again, I said this earlier, but it's not about job elimination. It's about like enablement and empowerment. Yeah. And like elevating people to get out of this day-to-day grind, and like leverage technology, work alongside of it, and grow the business. And it's just that like abundant mindset and mentality.
And why would you want to keep that to yourself? I think that's what I heard you saying, Matt, about Steve earlier, like this visionary and this ability to learn and see the possibility for people beyond just your little inner sphere. Like, how do you widen that network?
And I think, Steve's being very humble in his backstory, and I appreciate that character quality about Steve, because I think humility is something that's lacking in a lot of our executive leadership in today's business world. So, thank you for that. But I'll brag on him a little bit. And he, through his own experience, through operational efficiencies in the mortgage industry, catapulted him to the top 1% in the country. And so he wasn't just your average lender, right? And he created that opportunity for himself. He's by solving complex problems. And then through that experience said, well, why am I just solving a problem for one industry? I can help a lot of industries and a lot of different client types. And as we explore a lot of different clients, we realize that a lot of these problems are common amongst the different client types. The products are completely different. Our services are completely different. Their cultures are completely different. But some of the core problems that we're solving for are uniform across different industries, and so that allows us to move a lot faster because we've been there and seen it before, right? It's that different perspective that we bring to the client because they are working in their business, and we're coming in to work on it for them and move very quickly, as quickly as they will allow us to. And again, we do have some clients, right, that really have a hard time grasping what we do, and so there are certain times where we may not be aligned with certain clients, but it takes somebody with, vision for growth and an acceptance that they may not know really everything they need to know about technology. And sometimes as we go through our process, they may not know what they need until they see something and realize that's not what they need, but it helps us start the process, restart the process, right? And so we try and work very quickly on that front end to make sure that we're getting all the input that we need to build out, an ideal platform for them. And so we try and help them understand what they need to know. But as we go through this process together and collaborate together, it really becomes clear as we move forward to both us and the client, right? And that's the beauty of having that partner long-term versus having somebody come in and just deploy the platform, sell you a few licenses and leave to go get the next one. And so really just speaks to what we're trying to do to have that client for life.
What is an early observation that's important to you when helping clients?
An early observation.
I think Matt kind of was starting to hit on a little bit, right? It's
vision.
You're looking for their vision.
I mean, it's culture, innovation, vision. Like, are they willing?
I was just going to say, right? I bet willingness has got to be a big piece of it.
Yeah. It's it's definitely a willingness to change and to innovate and to think differently. Identify to like the people within the business owner, but then who's that implementer? Who's that key person internally that is really going to work with us to validate the stuff that we're building, because it can't just be, hey, you guys do it. You could build great tech, but if it's not enabled top down, then it's not going to take. And if those metrics, right, that we uncover, like if those aren't being managed to or held to or they're held, looked at, right? Like there's reasons why technology fails. There's reasons why companies aren't happy with their technology or even their Salesforce, right? Like it's a fantastic product, but there's this huge gap between what the technology can do and what the business owner needs it to do. And if the business owner doesn't have it defined as to what they need it to do, then it's an even bigger gap. Now it's just like you're just throwing technology solution in the wind. Like you're not really solving problems. You're just adding expense.
Does Oppty really can work with any business, any industry? Is that a true statement? I say that about Phoenix Business Radio. Like we literally could help somebody with their own podcast and radio show in any industry. Would you say the same about Oppty?
Yeah, I'd say we're open to talking. I mean, we haven't found anyone yet that we'd like turn away, aside from maybe it's not a fit for us from a culture side, but
or ethical side. Yeah, right.
That's got to feel good. I'm at that same place in business as well, that I know that I can help any business, small, medium, large, up to enterprise and organizations, associations, everything B2B. And at the same time, at that place in my life and in my business where I can say, this is just not a good fit. Mm-hmm. And while the revenue would be great, I'm not the best partner, and be able to say, that's okay. Well, let me help you. Let me introduce you to somebody who might be a better fit.
It's not worth it. And in the end, it won't be profitable, number one. And then there's a higher likelihood of it not succeeding. Right. And that, to me, every customer we work with, we set these metrics because we want that transparency. We want to be held accountable so we can perform and deliver. And as we get trust and we build that trust, it's what's the next big problem we can tackle. And yes, there's additional investment, but the return on it is greater than the investment. So everybody wins. Yeah.
I think from that first conversation we have with clients, sometimes I'll set that expectation with them that like this is kind of a two-way interview, right? So that you're understanding what we do at Oppty, but we want to understand more about your business, and probably don't spend a lot of time really digging into the product or service that they provide, but more looking for that willingness, that vision, and that that flexibility to allow us to do our magic, right? So if that's not there, then we can probably identify early on it's not a good fit. But from a type of business perspective, right, product or service, yes, I think we're open to talking to anybody, and we've proven through our diverse client base already that we can solve complex issues for just almost any type of business.
Mm-hmm. We are almost at the top of the hour. Can you believe it? It goes very quickly.
Right.
What I would love to know is, so you really, any business, small, medium businesses are really kind of who you're there to help support and help leverage. Are there any verticals that you're specifically focusing on? Business RadioX, of course, we have a wide network and it's very vast, not unsimilar to you. Who could we help you with introductions? What verticals are you I mentioned nonprofit only because Matt and I had talked about that previously. What other verticals are you focused on?
Yeah, and nonprofit, to expand on that, Salesforce has actually free licenses for up to 10 licenses for a nonprofit. So, and they've done an incredible job building out the platform for that nonprofit space. So, actually we've got a handful of customers in the nonprofit space, and it's a fantastic product. It's a matter of again, finding the right company, but then finding the right people in that organization who can help drive it. Budget can obviously be a concern in some instances, and we're definitely wanting to enable them. So the more if we can train and develop some of those people internally, there's always a way to make it work.
I love that.
Yeah, to add to that, we certainly want to highlight the education sector because it is, like Steve said, in his family, it's in my family, and Karen, we know it's yours as well. So, and we actually have a client here in this building, SciTech Institute, which is a very special client of ours, doing great things in the education space. And so also healthcare, real estate, manufacturing, there's a lot of different areas where we want to continue to provide our value. But again, anything outside of that, we want to make sure that for your listening audience, that we're open to talk to anybody that sees value in what we're doing. And I think the other thing too, before we run out of time, that we really haven't touched on is kind of our core values, and we don't have time to go through all of them. But I do want to mention that kindness is one that we just implemented into our core values, because I just feel like in our world today and all the exterior stressors that are out there and everything that everybody's dealing with in their personal lives, there's just a lot of noise out there, and we want to make sure that we're treating our clients respectfully, but with kindness as well. And so through all of our problem solving and solutioning and all that, we really appreciate, the relationship piece of it. And certainly for myself, that's very important, that internally and externally, that we continue to demonstrate kindness to each other.
I love that. Core values are really a big part of, I think, the most successful businesses. That's that foundation that you start with. And I love that you said we've just added this one. I mean, it's not that you haven't been unkind previously, right. But realizing and hanging your hat on, we're already this. Yeah. Let's speak to it. Let's add it as a core value so that it's very clear. And the other piece around core values that I think are so fantastic is like the key KPIs. I mean, you can go back and say, let's benchmark against this. How are we doing? Mm-hmm. If we're in alignment, we're golden. And if not, can we improve this? Right. And if not, maybe this isn't a good fit. Whether it's whatever key stakeholder that you're in conversation with, you have something to really benchmark against.
Yeah, and I'll just to add to some of those. Two other, I guess, core values that are really important to me: both self-development and then transparency. And to me, with the three of those, you're solving so many problems, and we look for that in our customers too, right? To align those values, but transparency solves problems in itself. Just because it just makes everything visible, right? So there's no finger pointing, there's none of that. There's more ownership. And then idea meritocracy, which is just so, I don't know if you read the Ray Dalio book, Principles, but that's a good one. But that's one of the core elements that he talks about too. And just kind of the balance of those two, where there's transparency, and then the best idea wins is kind of the idea behind that. So it's open, and that's really the network that we're looking to build with the partners we're adding. It's who has the best idea. We want to keep facilitating those great ideas and make those available to our customers.
The growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. You spoke to that, right? So much of what you're bringing into this ecosystem, both in your own company at Oppty, your own culture, but also the businesses that you work with in this ecosystem, celebrating and just building off of that. How can we be better together?
Yeah, and very much aligned with conscious capitalism, right? And obviously being in the building here, right?
Yeah. Love it. I know our first introduction was with Jody Lowe with You and Improved. And then, of course, you mentioned Dr. Babendor with Scientech Institute. So we're very grateful for the reintroduction because I think we have Jeremy to thank for that. So thank you so much both for being here. How can our listeners get in touch with you? Let's mention the website, but also what's the first step in getting started? How do we find out if we are a good fit?
Yeah, so they can visit the website at www.opptyunlimited.com. And they can reach out to us there through our Contact Us page. That's kind of the first step, right? And then we would set up a consultation call, typically about 30 minutes or so, just to understand more about their business. And if they haven't listened to this podcast or bits and pieces of this, then they can certainly understand a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, right? And then from that point on, we kind of come to a decision point whether or not we want to work together, and then we kind of proceed on with our business analysis process and our Oppty launch process, and then move into implementation phase and on from there. So, the easiest way to reach us is through the website, and be happy to get the conversation started.
Awesome. And Oppty Unlimited is OPPTY, unlimited.com. Also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram. Look at you guys doing your social media circuit. I love it. Yep. Steve and Matt, thank you both so much for spending time with us here on Phoenix Business RadioX. We're very excited about what you're up to. And my mind is racing for introductions and how we may be able to align and work together. Need to learn a little bit more about that ambassador program as well.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to Phoenix Business RadioX, broadcasting live from with the Maxis Conscious Workspace studio. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.